What's good, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Before we start the podcast, I'd love it if you are new to this or if you are a consistent listener and if you haven't subscribed or whatever you're listening on, liked, whatever the word is, on whatever platform you're listening or watching on, please do. And also give us some comments, or please go follow the Instagram, which is the @DJ, it's the Will Clarke Podcast. Just means that the show can keep growing and keep getting bigger, and I can get bigger acts for you all to listen to. So this week on the podcast is the one and only Yotto. Doesn't really need much introduction. Has achieved many things in this industry we call the electronic music industry. Early beginnings on Anjuna, and then moved to releasing on his own label, Odd One Out. I really he's a lovely guy. I've kind of been in touch with him over the years. We've met a few times in person, but I really wanted to get him on and kind of get to know how he runs his business, his thoughts on the music industry at this moment in time. But yeah, really insightful guy, and I really like this conversation. So without further ado, Yotto. And we are live. Yotto, what's cooking, man?
Hey, what's up? Just enjoying some post-lunch coffee here.
Nice. How's the weather in Helsinki right now?
Cold. It's getting we're getting into the nice part of winter. It's been a pretty terrible winter so far. Not a lot of snow, so kind of depressing.
Really?
But yeah, unfortunately.
Has it just been rain and cold?
Some of it, yeah, and they're kind of slushy but not just kind of dry and weird.
That's not good. Is the skiing good there?
It's good, cross country stuff, but we don't really have any mountains. We're just
I was going to say, I thought it was quite a flat country.
Yeah, so there will be some parts of Sweden, and then definitely Norway. It will be the closest, like in this part of the world where you actually get some mountains.
I actually skied in Norway years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I'm not an avid skier. I love it. I wish I'd kind of took more time out to go and do it. But I was on a stag do. My sister's husband, and we went, which was fun. It was good.
Ski or snowboard?
I'm a skier. I'd like to board, but I don't know. What about you?
Skis, more kind of like an adult life thing.
Yeah.
I did, a bit of snowboarding, but I was awful at it just because of I used to skateboard for a long time, so I thought I would be good, but apparently not.
Old age kicking in for both of us, mate. Pretty much.
It's getting there.
Yeah, definitely. How's your year looking so far?
We'll see. It's looking pretty nice. Not doing too much crazy stuff. Trying to be in the studio a bit and come up with some new concepts as well. So just trying to do the things that I really want to do, and every now and then you end up doing, saying yes to a lot of things, and then you figure out that you're in Argentina and you have to do something in Europe the next week, and then fly back to US, and it's it becomes a lot. So this year is looking pretty nice in that sense.
It's also a really strange time of the year, isn't it? Now, like, we're in 18th of Feb when we're recording this. It's kind of like last year is always mental, and you kind of go into this, like, January, February is a weird time in the music industry, I find. Do you feel the same?
So? Yeah. It's generally just quiet, and I don't know, feels like it's kind of starts picking up again in late February, and then we get closer to, for whatever reason, like Miami Music Week, although it doesn't really hold that same thing as it had when it was Winter Music Conference. I think back then it clearly was the beginning of the year a bit more, but even now it's somehow like, personally for me, that's when the year kind of kicks off. Some things in March, and then you start rolling into the festival season and everything. But
yeah, I agree. What's your thoughts on that?
Off.
Mate, it's so weird. And I think every conversation I've been having with people, either on the podcast or off, like with mates, Like it just seems like this year everyone's like in this like really weird mindset of like not really sure what's going on. I don't
Mm,
know if you feel the same, but it
I
feels
do,
like
yeah.
the industries just seem to have just completely flipped. Um, and a lot of people are in a very strange situation.
I think so, yeah. A lot of other DJs, promoters, managers, agents have kind of echoed that sentiment in a way
Yeah.
where, you know, the landscape is, it's always changing or shifting in kind of like ways that should be predictable, but then also are not. Trends change and we can't really predict, what's going to sell, what's going to be the good thing this year, apart from like the kind of marquee things that will always kind of work.
Yeah.
And then a lot of small clubs are struggling, closing, all over the world. I guess UK's been hit the worst.
It's terrible here,
Um,
man. Terrible. 75% of
that's
clubs have gone.
crazy.
Yeah. It's fucking mental. In the last, like, since COVID.
Yeah, because that used to be the UK thing. I feel like I used to read a lot of Ministry, Mixmag, and Music, the Z, uh, MUZIK magazine when I was younger, and that was kind of my introduction to like the actual scene around dance music. Apart from the records, like all the people around it and the club nights and everything. And they always had this like huge listing of events for the month.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like small towns somewhere in England that I don't even know about that had like Sasha coming in and
Yeah.
Steve Lawler and just like crazy, crazy programming uh, for clubs that I guess they were probably not tiny, but like, I don't know, 1,000 capacity or something like that. I would imagine. I don't know. I never went, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy because like even where I'm like I'm not in Bristol, but like the closest city to me is Bristol, and obviously it's a major city now. But back then, like the days that you're talking about, yeah, there was the clubs weren't 1,000 cap, but you had a lot of like 300, 400, 500 cap venues, and
right, yeah,
like every weekend there's probably so there was like Dojo, Timbuktu, Thekla, um, Lakota. There was probably like 7 clubs, like
that's insane.
in one city that all had crazy nights on,
Yeah,
like every weekend, like twice a week. But also the culture's completely changed, right? People don't like going out. Like I think it's like club culture as of how it was then. It was very much about going out, escaping reality, like getting fucked up, taking a load of drugs, getting drunk, and listening to great music. And I just think that culture is just not necessarily there anymore to a certain extent.
sure, yeah. Especially with the younger
Yeah.
generation, the kids that are 18 to 20 now, that's not the number one social environment for them, clearly. And kind of like it's a combination of so many things, I feel. You have kind of different take on health, and people don't go out 4 times a month or eight, whatever it was. And if they go, then they're more selective and they want to, maybe they spend a bit more money on one single show
Yeah.
than just like a DJ set at a club. Um, which I feel it's different. It's great to see like the culture getting to a point where you actually have shows that are you can actually call shows. I always felt weird about that word, especially as someone for whom English is not the first language. Like when the first people started saying that, yeah, I'm gonna come to your show. I'm like, I don't know, it's not a show. It's just me DJing in a corner
Pushing some
somewhere.
buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, maybe the focus is a bit more on that
Yeah.
instead of just kind of more what we consider like standard club nights.
Yeah, I think there's like difference in it, right? I think the standard club nights are culture building. in my opinion. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
how
for sure.
how do you play? I don't know. Let's say, for instance, last weekend I played in Copenhagen, and like you're in like a 300 cap venue, like they're
Where did you play?
very culture box.
Oh yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, it's great there.
Great room.
Um, you're just kind of like it's very different to that. Even that is very different to a 1,000 cap room, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, that's even different from a festival, and they're different environments. But I do agree that like people view going to see a DJ as what maybe you and I would have viewed as going to see a live band back in the day, of like how we kind of their shows, if you know what I mean. They're like actual productions.
Yeah, it's like a bigger individual thing, how you would, approach it more as, as you would go, yeah, see a rock band or something.
Yeah,
Instead of a club night just might feel mundane and ordinary, and it doesn't necessarily kind of give you the similar kind of excitement or FOMO or just the whole build up to the actual event if it feels like something you can do every single Friday or Saturday.
yeah,
But if you have a singular act coming to town that only comes once a year and has a big, big show, then for sure, you I could see definitely why people prefer that. But it might be at a cost of having less energy to go to kind of these more, you know, standard club nights and stuff.
yeah. How do you like to kind of, or how are you going into this year planning your touring? Because the more and more I'm speaking to promoters now, which I actually agree with them, is I think we went through a period of like, okay, your big markets, let's say for instance LA, New York, or wherever, like your that you class as like a big foot headliner, right? And like there was a period where you were told like, oh, you can only do that like once or twice a year.
Mm,
And the more and more I'm talking to promoters now is that, and I'd like to get your opinion on it, is like promoters, they want to do more shows with you in those markets and kind of build a real core following in those, rather than going, because like I guess that the argument what they're saying now is that, look, there's so many shows every week now in
mm,
these oversaturated markets, like you have fans in each market, but when you go to that city, not every single one of your fans can go and see you at that one time because of other things, because of life, right? We can't
yeah,
expect everyone to just drop all of their plans and come and see Yotto or me.
yeah.
What's your kind of approach to that for this year?
I, yeah, I don't think it's going to work out for this year because we're kind of, we're already approaching March.
Yeah,
But I do have this kind of like idea. I've had it for a long time that I want to do like a residency year where
yeah,
I would select, uh, you know, let's say eight or six cities kind of like throughout the world, in places where it actually makes sense. Australia would be a bit difficult to do that, go there for like, a few
yeah,
times a year just for one day. Um, but, say have one in London, have one in Budapest, have one in somewhere south of Europe, like, I don't know, Madrid, Barcelona, then, kind of bigger markets in the US,
yeah.
something in South America as well. I feel like that would be really cool. I don't know if it would work, but I've heard the same sentiment
Mm,
multiple times now, as for two reasons. Yeah, the first one, like you mentioned, the fact that you will have fans that will not make it to that one show you do, uh, and then the second being like just cultivating your own kind of little scene and group and core following in each city,
mm,
and building that. So ideally, by the end of doing a run of like four shows in a year in one city, on the final one, most people who have come before, they've had a good time, ideally, and then they will come, and then next year you can grow, because that's you have grown your core kind of crew and fans, who then kind of become very loyal,
Yeah.
hopefully, to this event. Happens more kind of in a more scheduled way than just like a sporadic appearance once a
Mm,
year.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely changing. It's going to be interesting. Like I like the concept of the residency thing as well. There was a club in London called XOY, or still is, London XOY, and they did that occasionally, where they would find an artist for a month and they'd book every weekend with that artist, and that artist would bring another headliner with them, and kind of it would
Yeah,
make it like a big thing. And I like that concept. Maybe not on every week in a month, but I think like you split that up over like 4 or 5 months of like once a month is like, or every
mm,
other month is like, I think you can really give fans a different experience each time as well. It's like, okay, maybe one night is all night long, the next night is back to back with like somebody, the next one is
yeah,
like a label, like all of your label crew, if you know what I mean, and then the next one is like whatever. I think it's a
yeah. We
really
were
nice.
supposed to, yeah, we were supposed to do this in 2020.
Yeah.
We had it lined up for Phonox in London,
Mm-hmm.
which is a nice,
Yeah, it's
just a
cool.
lovely small room.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
It's
COVID
fun.
came and kind of wiped that out. But I just saw an announcement video we did for that. We filmed it literally the weekend when everything closed. Because London was the last city I played this like spring, and
Oh, it's so typical.
and we were already kind of, when we were filming, we're like, let's see what's gonna come out of this. Like it's uh then yeah, that was a Saturday, I think, and
Mm.
then the closures kind of went on that night. And I was supposed to play in Bristol the next day, and that got cancelled. So it was like,
Where in Bristol? Motion.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
This
that's
was, yeah,
that's
2019, 2020 March. So,
yeah, yeah. That's closing down as well this year, this summer.
oh, no way.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
that's sad.
Yeah, really sad. There's a couple new venues opening up, but like still such a shame.
Yeah.
Um, how how do you feel releasing music has changed over the last like 18 months for you? Has it?
Not much. It's been 2 years now since my last album,
Mm.
which then that kind of dictated, the 12 months,
Yeah.
uh, which happened after, because you had all the album singles and the campaign and the remixes and everything. Kind of like, I felt like it went on forever. So
Was
by the
that
time it
growth?
was over, yeah,
Yeah, it's literally like two
by the
years
time it
now,
was
right?
over, I was kind of sick of
February
it.
the 2nd it came out.
Should be back. Yeah,
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, that was February the 2nd. I think that came out, didn't
yeah.
it? Yeah. How
So then
how
after that, yeah,
how did you find that process of releasing?
I don't know if an album is like a necessary product uh, for the touring DJ.
Yeah.
Not really. Club singles kind of throughout the year as often as possible, basically. At least if you want to play the algorithm on Spotify, you see Tiesto and Getza, they have like, I don't know, 20 plus records a year, all coming as like individual singles,
Mm,
which I guess is a solid strategy for that, to staying on top of like the algorithm and the playlist and everything. But I think an album it's like an artist's little project. It's also great for touring, because you can build something cohesive around this one product, and you can have a tour around it that actually kind of makes sense,
yeah.
instead of just being like, hey, this is my spring tour, which is
Yeah.
nice, but it doesn't really mean that much, unless you have like a very specific concept. But after that, it's been more back to the usual programming of releasing a single here and there, an EP, a remix,
Mm,
and yeah. So I'm kind of back in the studio now for trying to build something more cohesive as like a series of EPs that, you know, we'll see how it goes. Depends on how the music turns out, but I'd like to have some like continuity for a year or two
Yeah.
in some form.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? As artists, it can get. I don't know about you, but for me, it got quite tiring just releasing singles and club records in a sense of like, okay, that one didn't do that well, so okay, on to the next, or that one did well,
Mm.
like let's hold out for a little bit. And I
They're
think
dear, they're your babies. Then you're disappointed a bit, or they're just like, wrong time for that one.
yeah, but I think that's the thing is like, how do you measure a successful record for you? Like, what is the, like when you're sat down in the mirror by yourself or
Mm.
on the call with your team of like, how do you measure that?
Like personally, I would my measurement for a successful record is, you know, it comes with time. It's something that I still enjoy playing out, even though it's, you know, 4 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
I think that's more of where I would give the, you know, stamp of approval.
Yeah.
Like a quicker metric you can always get like after a few months if it's succeeding on charts or streams, but I think that's always a bit. I don't know. I don't know if the tracks that have streamed the most are actually like the ones that work for me in the clubs the best, or ones that I personally enjoy the most. It's
Yeah.
But that's the cold kind of business approach to just, you know, showing this record did well.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, from a personal or DJ perspective, I think it's the ones that work after years, or the ones that got something when they came out that meant something to you. Like when I got my first essential new tune, that was like I thought that was the kind of biggest success I can ever get.
Yeah.
Um,
How
so
good is
there's
that
always
for you?
something. Yeah.
It's the best, right? I think, especially like listening to Pete Tong from like a kid, really, and then seeing the essential new tunes each week, and then you're like, oh wow, Will Clarke, essential new tune. You're like, you just never expect
No
it, right?
way. Yeah,
It's such a powerful thing.
it is, and yeah, it still holds power, I think, and yeah, it's just a nice stamp of approval.
Yeah, I think there's all those kind of milestones that we have in our heads that that measures success, right? It's like mixed mag front cover. Like realistically, does it do anything for your career? Probably not, right? Like essential new tune. No disrespect to what it is nowadays. Like radio doesn't hold as much power as it used to, right? I remember
Mm,
an essential new tune pretty much meant that your career was set for a good 5 years, like back in the day. Whereas essential new tune now, unless the record turns into an absolute hit, doesn't really hold as much power. However, personally, it holds just as much power. And I think it's a
yeah,
stamp of approval from somebody that you look up to so much in the industry and has achieved so much. Having somebody that like tips their hat to you and acknowledges you is the nicest achievement ever, right?
yeah, and gives you, yeah, the record, the actual getting the essential new tune might not, you know, do much for your career, but then by extension, you might feel more confident about the record and your kind of own music making abilities, and uh, then that might kind of evolve or help you moving forward. You're like, okay, I you know, maybe this could be something, or you know, if it's something you release yourself, you know, maybe the label or yourself, you will feel more confident in the record and you can exploit that, or you know, like a mix mag cover, it's getting it itself wouldn't probably mean much, but if you use that and use that as ammo for your marketing, then you can sell it, or kind of let everybody else know that you're kind of worthy of this,
No, I agree. I agree.
whichever prize you get.
Which then carries on to the question that I would love to talk about, and is how you market things. Like this is from an outsider's. Like obviously we've met in person. We spoke a few times on socials. I don't know you super personally, right? But like I follow you. I listen to your music. And there's certain situations when you're like pretty serious on your social media, and then one day you'll come out with the most hilarious video of like promoting something, and it's like very well produced, and kind of, yeah, the content that you create is really strong. What,
It's good to
like,
hear.
no, it's great, man. I was flicking through it this morning as well, and I didn't catch the Super Bowl one until today, and I was like, oh, like, what goes in your head to go, okay, I need to do these types of videos? Is it like a planned thing? Is it like you have a team, or is it purely you coming up with
It's
these concepts?
it's mostly Tuka who does my most of my video work, or the more personal stuff. Uh, he's great at directing me, or kind of taking ideas. We brainstorm these ideas with management, and everybody comes up with kind of funny
Yeah,
stuff, especially now that we've kind of established that that is what we can do. And
yeah,
I think originally it was because a lot of dance music, a lot of the marketing can be relatively serious, or especially used to. I think people are a bit more open now, like showing their personalities and a fun side, or just being casual.
yeah.
But because it used to be a lot of like broody pictures looking at like over the horizon, or whatever, and especially in the kind of more, I guess, more authentically techno side of
Yeah,
things, it still is kind of relatively serious, which is fine, and it's good to stick to your lane, I guess. Um, but yeah, I'm not very good at that. So then the kind of humorous, kind of silly stuff came pretty organically, and then we kind of just lean into that. Um, it feels kind of genuine, and we enjoy making them. There's usually an idea we get from somebody from the team, and then we do the exact opposite. So, but
do
they're
you
good. Yeah, I
do you
think
find they work?
they probably don't work as well as the more kind of, if you have like a beautiful, well lit shot from well, let's say one of these like more like melodic techno adjacent shows with big screens and productions that are kind of very proven ways to like getting the algorithm to feed that to everybody, and
Yeah,
getting quick engagement. And because a lot of these videos are a bit on the longer side, they run up to like 45 seconds, 1 minute sometimes, which is a bit much.
yeah,
Uh, but I think for the people that actually watch them, they're great, and people come and always comment on them, and they're like, oh, I remember this video, and then they kind of like tell me something, or make a joke about a video that came out like 4 years ago, which is fun. I think they're just a separate product.
yeah.
They're not the most efficient tool necessarily for marketing, or getting a viral thing going on. But that's not really what we're trying. We're just trying to have fun,
Yeah.
and yeah, they work for that.
I guess yeah, I love them. They crack me up every time I see one come on my feed. I'm like, I have to watch all of this and just see where it's
That's
going.
nice.
It's great. I guess, how often, let's sticking on the marketing kind of conversation, what is your approach generally of like marketing? Is it something that, are you okay, we need a viral moment now, or how do we kind of grow a viral moment? Or is it a case of, well, actually we can't create a viral moment, so let's just do what we want to do?
It's yeah, we tend to think with the team throughout, like, we have a release coming or a tour coming, so we have to kind of ramp it up.
Yeah.
I'm pretty inconsistent myself with using social media. I might be offline for a few days or not post anything for weeks,
Mm.
which I feel is normal, but it's not the best method of working. I guess if your like modus operandi would be like a very well planned calendar of posts, but that would just require a huge amount of work with the type of content that we make. But I think overall, I think marketing, the way we've approached it from the beginning, has been more just leaning on personality and trying to somehow glue the actual musical product into it.
Yeah. It's so hard, isn't it?
It is,
Without,
yeah.
like, it's so hard because it's very easy, right, to post a picture of you in a club or DJing, or you at a festival, and it kind of get a bunch of responses and all of that. And obviously we've seen what Anima's doing and what Taylor of Us have done, and kind of really, or even like Kind of Music. And but it's also really hard to create those moments. I think a lot of those moments are actually created for those social media clips. I had Alex Duke on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he runs Jukebox PR, which is, I'm not too sure if you've used them before, but they own like Techno and Chill
Yeah.
Instagram accounts and all of those. And
hmm
like they're very specific on the content that they want, right? They want like
Yeah.
either massive visuals like Anima and things like that, or Eric Prydz or whatever, and or a daytime festival set with a load of hot chicks,
Mm.
and like what's gonna do well. And I think as like where we're at is actually sometimes really hard to just create that content. No matter how, you could have every videographer in the world filming you at the same time, but it's like creating that moment is fucking hard.
Yeah, it doesn't happen at every show. It's
No.
and I've always said that just like a random dude in his 30s standing or, slightly grooving in the DJ booth is not the most engaging thing
No.
in the world to look at, which is one of the reasons I guess we're seeing so many of these well produced, like bigger audiovisual shows, which is, just gives the audience something else to look at, I guess.
What's
But
your go on, carry on.
hmm, so yeah, I don't know. It's definitely kind of like impossible to create by design some of those like more organic moments, especially kind of the stuff where, from what Solomon became famous for is like these after party clips that, he's dancing in like daylight somewhere on a field somewhere or in somebody's house, and you can't really plan that. You can plan by having a videographer somewhere, but it was like somebody's phone clip that somebody
Yeah.
sent to someone and he forwarded it to someone, and I think that's pretty impossible to create by design.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
yeah, but the bigger moments, if your show leans into production, then those you can surely kind of plan.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally agree. It's so funny how the industry, especially, I feel that it's always been leaning towards the social side of things, but it's even more so now, where it's like records are being signed because of social media. It's not being
Mm,
signed because every DJ is playing it and it's a massive record. It's being signed because that video did 1 million views on Instagram or TikTok, and and it has potential to be massive, or that one record is had a 200 video reel has been made from that one record or something like that, or shares. Or it's definitely interesting how the need for social media is so powerful now in our world. Like when, like, even 5 years ago, when did everybody have a videographer? Like occasionally you had somebody videoing, but like 5 years ago, before COVID, no one really, not many people had videographers all the time with them.
No, I don't think so. No, the bigger acts might have had like a tour manager who
Yeah,
was, very capable with that side as well.
yeah,
Or I think before that, they were also just more focused on getting the full sets filmed and making like a larger product out of it. But now it's definitely more like we need to get this big 15-second clips.
yeah,
And and it's funny sometimes you look back at the material like, oh yeah, we had this great videographer last night, and he's like 20 drops. Then you go through it, it's just like, oh, it's all so boring.
yeah.
Like, it's just me like not doing much, or so it's a bit of a struggle trying to find the big, because you would essentially, that would be the core thing to post about. It's, it's your DJ sets, it's your show, it's the music that you're playing, or the stuff you're releasing on your label, stuff that's coming out, and you would want to have as much material to showcase that, but it's not always that simple. You can always superimpose that on, you can switch the audio of the best clip of
Yeah.
the night or something, but it's not easy, not easy. I think the best ones you usually get by accident. Like you see somebody tagged you on some like great, I don't know. It's something that's just very hard to design. And
No,
if
I
somebody
agree.
films in the crowd and just like from the perfect location somehow, and there's a lot of activity going on, and it's bright, and you see the
Yeah,
lights and everything. I don't know.
yeah. It's very hard to. I think it's also, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like if we're paying videographers like professional crew, like what they're actually delivering is very high end, which sometimes actually what works better is like the shit iPhone
Yeah, yeah,
like video of like someone shaking in the background, someone spilling their drink, and you hear people in the background talking and things like that. Sometimes that works better than actually a professional video that looks crisp and all of that. I guess it depends the aesthetic you're trying to go for, but generally they're the
yeah.
ones that do the best.
I think
Um,
I think so too. Yeah, I think that's part of like, well, for example, the kind of music appeal is,
yeah,
well, you get these beautiful big drone shots sometimes and stuff like that, which you can't really get with an iPhone. But then the more,
blow it up.
yeah, spinning around, that could
Yeah.
work. Um, but then the intimate ones that are in the booth and it's full of people, it's chaos, and I think it boils down to the fact that you just want to see clips that make you want to be a part of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Because then you see everybody's in the booth, kind of crammed up. It looks kind of awful in a way. You don't really want to be there, but then you also get like huge FOMO, and you're like, yeah, I want to be there. I want to party with these people.
Do you ever like on the mental aspect, do you ever struggle when you see that on socials of like ha- yeah, just not the, it's kind of the comparison, but like
Hmm.
comparing yourself to other artists, like comparing yourself different shows and things like that. Do you ever struggle with that?
Kind of. I don't. Yeah, I do get competitive, but that's something you can't really compete with. But um, I think you see things happen in social media that are just like a tiny fragment in the grand scheme of things of a night. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, I do. Of course, you look at some of those clips and be like, yeah, I wish every show I do was like that. But
Oh
unfortunately,
man,
not all of them are. Yeah.
it's so shit, isn't it? It's like such a like it's the I tell you what the worst thing is for me, and like I'm generally pretty good about not comparing myself to other artists nowadays. I used to be terrible. It used to like cripple me. But
Mm.
the worst time for me is like when I've just got off a show and I've got into my hotel bed and I flick on Instagram quickly, and then you see like fucking kind of music with like just the slammed booth and tens of thousands of people, and I've just played to like 300 people in like a sweatbox. I'm like, fuck's sake, what am I doing wrong with my career? But
Yeah.
hey, like
Yeah.
it's a tough one, isn't it? Because
It is. It is. Yeah.
it's also like, is that really what you want?
Mm.
Like, is that
Or is
really
that
what
the
I like? Is that really what you want? I don't know. Like, I think financially, yes, of course, right? Like,
sure? Yeah.
let's be honest. Like, if you're earning 500,000 a show, like, fucking crack on. Like, do
Yeah.
that all day long. But does that make you happy? I don't know. I can't answer
Yeah.
because I've not experienced it.
You switched. You switched to like a more live approach.
We did. We for the album.
Yeah.
For the album, I did like a live tour, which
How'd
was
you find it?
I loved it, Matt. Have you ever done it?
No, 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 not in front of a crowd. No, we did some recordings during COVID of like
Yeah.
kind of hybrid things where I had like a skeleton version on a
Yeah.
CDJ and then like laptop sending MIDI into some synths at the
Oh,
same
cool.
time. But yeah, not much more than that.
Yeah, we did like. Well, for me, the album was very much like this isn't DJ music. Realistically, there's a few records on the album that are DJ friendly, but realistically, like in a Will Clark set, can I play a breakbeat record? Like, probably not. Um, well, I could, but I didn't want to realistically.
Right.
So it was like, how do I present this album to people that's slightly different to what they are used to seeing me? Um, it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of stress though. Like so much stress.
Traveling, setting off. It's a bit different than
It
showing up with a USB.
yeah. It wasn't really the traveling or the like all of that for me was really interesting because I've never done a live tour, so it's like complete different. Like I actually had a team. Like it's not
Hmm.
I
Fair,
don't
yeah.
travel with anyone unless there's a videographer with me. I don't travel with anyone. I don't have a TM or anything. So for me it was like there were 7 of us traveling.
Wow. Okay.
So gone from like traveling with nobody to 7 of us is just a whole different thing. All the dynamics of dealing with people and kind of the like the fun of just like having good conversations with people. And we weren't just flying as well, we were like on
On a bus.
minibuses. We did like
Nice.
minibuses as well, which was fun. So like yeah, it was, I learned so much. And yeah, I would do it again, but I'm not rushing back to do it again. It's financially it destroyed me.
Mm, yeah.
but it was a really good experience, and that is the goal. But I think it's also, it goes back to that business of like, you have to be realistic of like, you still also have to make money to be able to write the records and to be able to
Yep.
release the records and to be able to do all of that. So yeah, touring's very expensive now. Have you noticed a
I
change
think
in
flights.
cost?
I think yeah, yeah. Flights are definitely like oh, you know, everything travel related is a bit more expensive. Or not a bit,
A lot.
a lot. I think.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's very different from kind of. I started touring pretty much like 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
yeah, you could do a weekend in the US with 3 shows. You know, where you know you could get flights for like $95 and a hotel
Yeah.
room for 110, and now it's like triple
Yeah.
uh, for something mediocre. Um, which I think that's especially for when you're touring alone, that's the biggest single cost. Um, but yeah, I guess back to kind of sort of back to that sitting in a hotel room after a show and looking at clips of a bigger show is, yeah, I think it's healthy in a way, because not it's a funny industry. Not every act can end up being like Anima or uh, Tiesto. Like you will always have that kind of whatever you call it, second tier.
Yeah. Shelf life.
But yeah, staying in that is kind of frowned upon, because I think the industry is obsessed with professional and kind of career and artistic growth, where you're just like, ah, well, you've played this slot before, so if you play the same slot next year, you're a failure, which is kind of like not really true.
Yeah.
It's more just a reflection of kind of the chosen path, um, and you can't really compete with everything. But I guess it's
Yeah.
healthy, kind of like acknowledging where and being able to, I don't know, be in touch with your emotions.
No, I agree. But I guess also like we're also in the music business. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is that this is also a business. But the hard thing about it is that it's business, but it's also business around creative people. And
Mm,
creative people aren't necessarily the best drivers of business. Um, so it's kind of hard to go hand in hand. But then yet again, I think everyone, not everyone, but I can't speak for everyone, but I think most people want to grow and want to be seen in. It's not necessarily about earning more money, but it's about being in front of more people and kind of having more success in that sense of reaching more people, and the outcomes of that is more financial success.
yeah,
um but I would kind of push back. Yeah, I agree. We're only going to have maybe a few handfuls of Tiestos in the world, right? Like we've got the John Summit, the Fisher, the Chris Lakes at this moment in time, but they are the future Tiesto, David Guetta's in our world right now. The same with Anima, right? Like they're
mm,
probably going to be around for the foreseeable.
yeah,
Um, but I don't know if that means that nobody can get to that level. It does. I don't think it means that like not everyone can. I think there's purely a level of luck that comes into that, and with that level of luck of if you've got the right team around you at the time, if you just I think there's multiple things that need to be in place or to when that luck hits to take you to that next level. Um,
yeah. There's
let's
definitely room on the top. Like that's kind of a given. Like there's like a it's very crowded until you get to that level. Then it's a bit more
very crowded.
spacious, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you felt it being more crowded? I call it the middle class of the music industry.
Mm,
Like but have you felt it be more crowded now?
I think so. Yeah, because it's there's a shift in very clear shift in trends and sounds. A lot of the more harder techno, especially in Europe. I guess everywhere, like globally too, is coming through with such a strong kind of force that um, it's pushing some other sounds kind of out of the way, uh, in terms of venue availability and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of the clubs in Europe where that used to be kind of regular stops for a lot of people are now shifting into, a different sound, which is selling a bit more currently.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes it crowded. You're not like directly competing with them, like if you want to use the word compete, because you would not be booked for the same slot at the same festival because it's a majorly different
Yeah.
vibe. But in general, you know, there's a finite amount of people somehow going into these events
Yeah.
and into these venues. So there is like an indirect uh, competition or just like limited amount of space.
Mm.
So I do feel it's a bit more crowded now than it was uh,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, but I think that's just like a natural progression of things.
I think it's also, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's also a progression of how big the industry has got in the
Mm,
last 5 years. Of it's become way more commercialized, and I think that's with thanks to the biggest artists in our scene. Of like, it's opened the doors for way more people to become DJs, way more people to become producers, um, and way more people to be able to market themselves due to social media. Beforehand, there's obviously in the last 10 years, there's been social media the whole time, but it's even more so now. Of like, okay, I remember when I first started releasing music, like you almost had to apply to get your record label on Beatport, if you know what I mean. And
mm,
that was like, not like they would hand pick like only a few labels like a month to go on Beatport. Like, that's just Beatport nowadays, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah,
you can release music literally. We could write something in the next hour and put it up by tomorrow, if you know what I mean. It's
yeah,
that fast nowadays.
and like
um
completely accessible. Anybody can do that. You have like there's no kind of like uh, guards in place, which is great, but also makes for a very different landscape.
yeah, it's there's pros and cons, right? Like,
Yeah,
does it does it make for great competition? Yes. Does it mean, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've experienced this loads in the last year of like so many like people that I've never heard of, like, be absolutely huge and like be able to sell crazy tickets. And like, maybe just because I'm a bit older and not as head to the ground or ear to the ground, like I'm not paying attention so much. I'm in my own little box and kind of just doing my own little thing. But I feel like 5 6 years ago, you would probably know like everyone that was kind of popping off, and like everyone would be able to talk, and like you'd see everything. Where now it just feels like there's so many niche markets of like, oh shit, that person's got like 250,000 followers on their Instagram and they're selling 5,000 tickets in every city they
yeah,
go to, and I've never heard a single record from them. It's really interesting, really interesting.
yeah. It's there's just so much. I think it's the saturation itself. I was standing at a festival with a relatively big DJ next to me, and he just asked like, "Oh, who's that? Who's playing?" I was like, "That's Mau P." I was like, "What's that?" I was like, "Oh, fair. You can know everything," um, which just you just can't. You don't have the bandwidth unless you spend all your time online and following these trends. But if you're an artist, you're not a journalist. There's a limit. Of course, you stay up to date to you know who's coming up, who's making good music, who's the interesting act right now. But yeah, you just can't catch it all.
Yeah, and I guess it's not our nowadays. I don't know about you, but like, for me, when it was like in the record crate digging, where like I would spend time going to search for really good records, and like either in a record shop or on Beatport or Juno, or like, but those kind of, when I was like truly digging into being a DJ, I feel like now it's, everything's so put in its own box that it's actually so hard to find something outside of the box that you're in that's like interesting, because it's like everything's filtered, right? So heard a really interesting kind of conversation. It was completely out of music, but it was talking about house sales. And in the UK, we have this app called Rightmove, right, where you like type in the area that you want to buy a house in, and you
Hmm.
filter everything to like, I want to spend 500,000 in this area, and it needs 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, etc., etc.
Yep.
So you get sent that. But what we're and it's exactly the same in music, right? You go on Beatport, I want techno. You click on tech, or you click on hard techno. That's all you're gonna get, right?
Yep.
Like you get sent that hard techno. So what this guy was saying is that you actually don't find the like diamonds in the rough ever, because your filter is very specific. And
Yeah.
for me, that feels very much like where we're at in this industry, is that everything is so neatly in its own niche that you very rarely have music that crosses over niches or crosses over genres. Whereas before it was like you'd go to a record shop, or you'd even go to Beatport, and you'd be able to like, it wouldn't be as like so much fed to you or filtered, where you could find those diamonds in the rough, that those records are just insane. And if you're a melodic techno DJ, but there's a house record that's so fucking good, you're still going to play it. And I feel like that's kind of where we're at now, is that you could be the biggest artist in whatever niche, but have no idea what the dude 2 degrees next to you is, or the chick 2 degrees next to you is doing, and have never heard of any of their music. And it's a really interesting time.
It is. Yeah. It has a lot to do with kind of how democratic it is to make music, because there's enough music as well for each of these, DJs and everybody to stay in their own pocket and be like, I'm an Afro house DJ, so there's a 400 trillion records right now that I can choose from, and if I'm a deep house DJ, so then I'm just like, there's enough of new stuff here, and then only the genuine hits might cross over with the remixes and edits, and I guess
Yeah.
that's more where the actual crossover happens. Sometimes there's a record or two that kind of cross from DJ to DJ, but I think it's becoming more rare. But yeah, I guess over in the days of record stores, and even when Beatport was starting up, you had this level of, some call it gatekeeping, some call it curation. It's a bit of both, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's pros and cons to this like huge, endless ocean of music that's kind of readily available every time.
Mm.
But it makes for a challenging
Career.
spot for a DJ to like find something that not everybody's playing in that, in your lane, for example.
Yeah, definitely. Do you think streaming is the best platform for our genre of music?
It's good for discovery, I think, and kind of casual consumption. But I don't, maybe I use it wrong, or I don't know how to use Spotify in a more crate digging way.
Yeah.
The radio algorithm, or whatever it's called, it's quite good. I think if I pick a record that I like from like a certain era, it usually goes pretty well. Like
Mm.
if I start from like a funky house record from 2007 or so on, and it will feed me something kind of similar for the next hour.
Yeah.
But sometimes it kind of does something silly, but generally it's quite okay. But then kind of that communication with Spotify and my DJ sets is not happening. I haven't really cracked that. Like if I hear something really nice on Spotify, then the next track comes along and I don't remember it anymore.
Yeah.
So it needs a more focused process for finding records for DJ sets. And the same with the radio show we do is we get sent like a nice package of music for the week. And then I go through the promos and whatever new music is out that week and then combine all these things. But I feel like it's still, there's no like iTunes, or I don't think it even exists. Because I wanted to buy like I think it was like a Avalanche's record as a WAV file, and it was difficult. I couldn't get it on like a lot of the stores.
It's really hard. You have to go on like iTunes store and then like pay for the lossless WAV or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's probably it.
But it's such a nightmare. It's just not easy.
It's the worst.
It's not.
Piracy was the way, like Soulseek and
bring back LimeWire. Yeah. I want to talk about Odd One Out, your label. Why did you start a label?
I think it was, I kind of have to go back to the beginning of things to kind of make it make sense. Or I guess you could just say I wanted to have a label. But I grew up listening to a lot of DJ sets because I couldn't go to clubs. There wasn't much in Helsinki. There was always a few, but the DJs that I was following, they were like Sasha and Desin Masiello, Digweed, Polo Mojo, that whole kind of global underground scene. And when I had to download the sets online with horrible quality, and then I listened to them and be like, yeah, what's this record? Then there were forums that had people kind of figuring out the track lists. And usually the track that I was looking for was always like, okay, it's on like Alternative Route. I'm like, okay, cool, that's Desin Masiello's label, or it's on Bedrock. I'm like, oh, that's Digweed. So all these guys had their own labels, which kind of allowed me to get, I don't know, it felt more personal. And I was like, okay, cool, you know, he likes good music, so, and he's a good DJ, must be a good guy. I felt it was like a nice extension to the DJ. I didn't really understand what it meant. Like, why would they actually have it, and how do they come up, you know, how do they find the music and stuff? But it just felt very intriguing. And then when my career kind of started was with Anjuna Deep. And after kind of working with them for a few years, it's such a strong brand that in a way you start worrying about things. You're like, am I, you know, how long am I going to be under this umbrella and just perceived as an artist of Anjuna? So then coming up with your own little pocket or lane just kind of helped me to, it was a way to like try to establish myself more as an individual artist. And it's nice. It was a fun project to start, I think. It's really exciting, and it gives you so much freedom and also responsibility, because your worst A&R, you're like, oh, this is fucking great. I'm a genius. Then you release it and you're like, no, I'm like, maybe I could use somebody to kind of stop these horrible ideas. But in general, I think that was it, like the freedom and speed of just kind of deciding what comes out, you know, when. And also slightly an ego thing, because you think you know better, but usually the people that work at these labels and have like a vision of your next few releases, they might know better than you, but it's still fun. I think it's a good combination, because then if you have your own label as your main output, then you can always go and release anywhere, because you're not really exclusively signed to yourself.
No, I totally agree. I think it's amazing what Anjuna have done as well. Like, I kind of want to talk about that brand briefly. How many artists they've grown, and how well they just keep growing artists. Like, it's every few years they just come out with somebody that just gets fucking massive, and you're like, how are they so consistent at curating amazing artists, right?
Yeah.
Like it's insane. Do you try and model Odd One Out in a similar sense of like, is that the goal, or is it completely different?
Not for now. Originally, I thought it was going to be just an outlet for my music, really, kind of like Prida is for Eric Fritz,
Yeah,
where he doesn't really release much music from others, or he has like a Prida Friends or
yeah,
Prida Presents, like separate labels. Um, I think why Anjuna has been so successful has a lot to do with having a bit more like three-dimensional approach to everything, because they have huge events and they have great ear. They're very
yeah.
good at picking up talent. So it's
Mm,
a great house with a lot of talented people, kind of figuring out who could be best. Although that's not like their ulterior motive, because that would not benefit them to like just come up with like people who essentially leave them.
yeah,
But I think they just succeed in A&R and picking up great talent, and then they're able to break them because of these big events they have. They're able to put them on large stages and give them some experience, which then for the artist is kind of vital once they start moving away or getting booked
yeah.
elsewhere as well.
No, totally.
So yeah,
No, it's amazing what they've done. There's not many labels in the electronic scene nowadays that have been able to achieve and consistently achieve what they do. Um, it's kind of weird out there now. I feel like there was a period where it was very label driven. It's very brand label driven, and I feel like then a lot of artists like yourself, even me with my label, is like
yeah,
we wanted to kind of almost step out of being pigeonholed into as an Anjuna artist, or I had it with Dirty Bird or all of
yeah.
that. It's like there does come a point where as an artist you have to be like, okay, guys, I really appreciate it, but now it's time for somebody new to come through and you kind of help them out. And we need
Mm,
to go away and do our own thing, whether it's good or bad business decision. It sometimes is just a point of, okay, this is the time it's up, and we've had a good run. Let's go our separate ways, if you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. I think it helps the fans too, because then they're able to find a brand that they like, which usually delivers kind of relatively consistently music that has either like an aesthetic similar
Yeah,
vibe with each other, or just the sound, or that's the hard part, I guess.
yeah,
Finding out
yeah.
music that actually makes sense as a whole, and the labels that succeed in doing that, I think they are the ones that thrive on the live side as well, because people know what they're going to get.
I think that's the hardest
Because
thing that I've found with signing people to my label is that
mm,
there's two things, right? It's signing great music, which is hard to find nowadays, in my opinion, and also finding people that actually want to put the work in to work their records as well. Is like we all know, as unless you're an Anjuna or a label on that sense, like it's hard to even get any music be heard by any DSP or
yeah,
etc etc. It's hard to kind of even push those unless that artist is willing to kind of work the socials and kind of do those marketing techniques as well. And that's the thing. It's like being I want to help you as an artist. I can book you at shows, I can do that, but also it's like a bit of give and take of like I also need you to kind of want to promote this record as much as I want to promote this record. It's tough.
it is. Yeah, and it's not. It's time consuming, but then you ideally you find artists that are very driven and have great aspirations, so then they would be willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
from a label point of view, if I feel like I have a hard time deciding what I like, because it's not very specific. I like this and that, and a lot of things. And then if somebody likes a record that we put out, And then the next one's like, yeah, we have this great like piano house record. Let's release this. And then they go on Beatport and they're like, yeah. I played this record they put out so much. I'm gonna see what else they have. Then the next thing they have is like in a completely different vibe. And then they're just like, oh well, fuck this. This
Yeah.
makes no sense. So yeah, from a brand point of view, it would be great to just stick to whatever little niche you can figure out. But it's
It's
not
so
really.
tough though. Like,
Yeah, it's
and
so
in my
boring.
opinion, the best record labels actually toe the line where it depends, right? Like one of my favorite record labels is XL.
Well, yeah,
You go from Prodigy to Over Mono to Adele. Like it just
yeah,
that's completely different. I know it's a major record label now, but I think like the best record labels have the ability to release what they want, but it
yeah,
still fits in with the sound, if that makes sense. Like
yeah,
early, in my opinion, early Dirty Bird, like early 2000s, like how they ran the record label is that they found the weirdest artists that were releasing the weirdest house and techno, but it all fit, but nothing really sound the same. Sadly, it got to the point where they just found a formula and then everything sounded the same. But I think
right, yeah,
I think that's where we're at now, is that it feels like everything has to be so marketable to fit in one box. But I kind of really, I can't wait for the next label to come out that's just like willing to just push great music in a
mm,
sense of what a record label should be.
yeah. I think it's especially in the DJ world because we try to focus on events a lot when we think about these things, but then you don't see a Ninja Tune label tour. We probably
No.
there probably was one in the 90s or something when it was more just like I guess it was like break beats and stuff back then.
Yeah.
But now it's yeah, because I think the cohesiveness comes from the quality and the push that they're able to put into each artist, and
Mm.
still some sort of like cool factor that the artists have that they
Yeah.
kind of still like to work with. I think it's another good example. Like Excel, I think Ninja Tune has that some sort of like a stamp of approval that this is cool. Um,
It also, that takes time, right? It takes time
yeah,
for, and I think also it's almost like it actually can't be ran by a DJ.
no,
It almost needs to be ran by somebody that just cares about the being a record label, and like, okay, this isn't a Yotto record label, this isn't a Will Clark record label, this is a record label, and we
yeah,
purely release great music. Yeah,
yeah.
strange.
That's usually where the DJ driven record labels fall flat if they try to grow out from that. Is it used to be finding records for me to play or put out records that I've made, then I can't really. Even if we got sent like a Prodigy level brilliance, then what the fuck are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
Which would be great to figure it out, or then just come up with a different label. We can have like or not, be the real
Yeah, I
record
think
label,
that's
and
it,
then have
isn't
like
it?
a just like separate the whole the two things and have an arm for the cool and the boring.
Yeah. But then when you're in that area, you're like up against the XLs, the Dominoes, the
Mm,
Ninja Tunes, like all of those kind of interesting record labels that every fucking artist in that era or in that
yeah,
genre or vibe wants to be signed to those labels. It's a strange world. Strange world,
not
dude.
easy,
We've
not
just done
easy. Yeah,
no, we've just done over an hour, man. Let's wrap this motherfucker up. Thank you so much for
yeah,
coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out and having a chat. I'm sure people are going to love this conversation.
yeah. Thanks for having me.
No,
It was a
thanks
good
for coming
chat.
on, man. How can people follow you? How can people see your shows? etc.,
Yeah,
etc.
they can find me at Yotto Music everywhere on socials, or Odd One Out label everywhere as well, or see me on the road at yottomusic.com. Just yeah, go on Spotify, find Yotto. There's a bunch of new music coming out as well, which is nice. A lot of collaborations that I'm kind of excited about, which have been a long time coming. So
Cool, man.
should be a
Can't
fun
wait to hear
year.
it. Can't wait to see it. Nice one, man. Thank you so much. Keep safe.
All right, yeah, good chat. See you.
And that's a wrap. Big love to Yotto for coming on. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a comment, share it. Peace.